Kiteboarding is a surface water sport combining aspects of wakeboarding, snowboarding, windsurfing, surfing, paragliding, skateboarding and gymnastics into one extreme sport. A kiteboarder harnesses the power of the wind with a large controllable power kite to be propelled across the water on a kiteboard similar to a wakeboard or a small surfboard, with or without footstraps or bindings. Kitesurfing is a style of kiteboarding specific to wave riding, which utilizes standard surfboards or boards shaped specifically for the purpose. There are different styles of kiteboarding, including freestyle, freeride, downwinders, speed, course racing, wakestyle, jumping and kitesurfing in the waves. In 2012, the number of kite surfers was estimated by the ISAF and ICA at 1.5 million persons worldwide. The global market for kite gear sales is worth $250 million. History. In the 1800s, George Pocock used kites of increased size to propel carts on land and ships on the water, using a four-line control system, the same system in common use today. Both carts and boats were able to turn and sail upwind. The kites could be flown for sustained periods. The intention was to establish kite power as an alternative to horsepower, partly to avoid the hated horse tax that was levied at the time. In 1903, aviation pioneer Samuel Cody developed man-lifting kites and succeeded in crossing the English Channel in a small collapsible canvas boat powered by a kite. In the late 1970s, the development of Kevlar then Spectra flying lines and more controllable kites with improved efficiency contributed to practical kite traction. In 1978, E&A's flexi-foil kite-powered Tornado catamaran exceeded 40 km/h. In October 1977, Gisbertus Adrianus Panwies received the first patent for kite surfing. The patent covers, specifically, a water sport using a floating board of a surfboard type where a pilot standing up on it is pulled by a wind-catching device of a parachute type, tied to his harness on a trapeze-type bell. Although this patent did not result in any commercial interest, Gisbertus Adrianus Panwies could be considered as the originator of kite surfing. Through the 1980s, there were occasionally successful attempts to combine kites with canoes, ice skates, snow skis, water skis and roller skates. Throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, Dieter Strasser from Germany developed parachute skiing and later perfected a kite skiing system using self-made paragliders and a ball socket swivel, allowing the pilot to sail upwind and uphill but also to take off into the air at will. Strasser and his Swiss friend Andrea Kuhn used this invention also in combination with surfboards and snowboards, grass skis and self-made buggies. One of his patents describes in 1979 the first use of an inflatable kite designed for kite surfing. Two brothers, Bruno Leguenu and Dominique Leguenu, from the Atlantic coast of France, developed kites for kite surfing in the late 1970s and early 1980s and patented an inflatable kite design in November 1984, a design that has been used by companies to develop their own products. In 1990, practical kite buggying was pioneered by Peter Lynn at Argyle Park in Ashburton, New Zealand. Lynn coupled a three-wheeled buggy with a forerunner of the modern parafoil kite. Kite buggying proved to be very popular worldwide, with over 14,000 buggies sold up to 1999. The development of modern-day kite surfing by the Rosellas in the USA and the Leguenu in France carried on in parallel to buggying. Bill Rosler, a Boeing aerodynamicist, and his son Corey Rosler patented the kite ski system, which consisted of water skis powered by a two-line delta-style kite controlled via a bar-mounted combined winch brake. The kite ski was commercially available in 1994. The kite had a rudimentary water launch capability and could go upwind. In 1995, Corey Rosler visited Peter Lynn at New Zealand's Lake Clearwater in the Ashburton Alpine Lakes area, demonstrating speed, balance and upwind angle on his ski. In the late 1990s, Corey's ski evolved to a single board similar to a surfboard. In 1996, Laird Hamilton and Manu Burton were instrumental in demonstrating and popularizing kite surfing off the Hawaiian coast of Maui while in Florida. Rafael Barak changed the name of the sport from fly surfing to kite surfing. In 1997, the Legenu brothers developed and sold the breakthrough's Waipika kite design, which had a structure of preformed inflatable tubes and a simple, bridle system to the wingtips, both of which greatly assisted water relaunch. Bruno Legenu has continued to improve kite designs, including developing the bow kite design, which has been licensed to many kite manufacturers. In 1997, specialized kiteboards were developed by Rafael Salas and Laurent Ness. By the end of 1998, kite surfing had become an extreme sport, distributed and taught through a handful group of shops and schools worldwide. The first competition was held on Maui in September 1998 and won by Flash Austin. Starting in 1999, kite surfing became a mainstream sport with the entry of key windsurfing manufacturers, namely Niche and Neil Pride. Single-direction boards derived from windsurfing and surfing designs became the dominant form of kiteboard. From 2001 onwards, twin-tip bidirectional boards became more popular for most flat water riders, with directional boards still in use for surf conditions. In May 2012, the course racing style of kite surfing was announced as a sport for the 2016 Rio Olympics, replacing windsurfing. However, after a vote by the General Assembly of ISAF in November 2012, the RSX windsurfer was reinstated for both men and women. This was an unprecedented decision when the constituent members of ISAF overthrew a decision made by the ISAF Council. Kite surfing remains therefore a non-Olympic sport until 2020 at the earliest. The ISAF mid-year meeting of May 2013 proposed seeking an 11th medal to include kite surfing in 2020. At the same time, there was a commitment made to retain the existing other 10 classes as there for 2020 and even 2024, including the RSX windsurfer for men and women. Kite surfing is soon to be named as an official event at the 2018 Youth Olympics in Buenos Aires. Speed records. French kite surfer Sébastien Catalan became the first sailor to break the 50 knots barrier by reaching 50.26 knots on 3 October 2008 at the Ludwitz Speed Challenge in Namibia. On 4 October, Alex Kaisergs broke this record with a 50.57 knots run. Similar speeds are reached by windsurfers in the same location by Anders Bringdal and Antoine Albo, respectively 50.46 and 50.59 knots. These speeds are verified, but are still subject to ratification by the World Sailing Speed Record Council. Earlier in the event, on the 19th of September, American Rob Douglas reached 49.84 knots, becoming the first kite surfer to establish an outright world record in speed sailing. Previously, the record was held only by sailboats or windsurfers. Douglas also became the world's third over 50 knots sailor, when on the 8th of September he made a 50.54 knots run. On the 14th of November 2009, Alex Kaisergs completed another run of 50.98 knots in Namibia. Wikipedia. October 2010, Rob Douglas became the outright record holder for the short distance 500 meters with 55.65 knots. Sébastien Catalan became the record holder of France and Europe with 55.49 and was the first rider to reach 55 knots. Long-distance notable journeys: Louis Tapper completed the longest recorded kite journey, completing 2,000 kilometers between Salvador and São Luís, Brazil. The journey was completed between July-August 2010 and took over 24 days of kite surfing. This trip is also the longest solo journey, completed without support crew, using one kite on a 35-liter backpack. The previous longest recorded kite journey was by Eric Grammond, who completed a 13-day trip of 1,450 kilometers along the coast of Brazil. Transatlantic crossing. A team of 6 kite surfers, Filippo van Hellenberg Huber, Eric Pequeno, Max Blom, Camilla Ringvold, Ike Franz, and Dennis Gisbers, crossed the Atlantic Ocean from the Canary Islands to the Turks and Caicos Islands, a distance of about 3,500 miles, from November 20, 2013, to December 17, 2013. Each of the 6 spent 4 hours each day surfing, broken into 2 sessions of 2 hours each, one during the day and the other during the night. Governance. The International Kiteboarding Association is an international class association of the International Sailing Federation. Its responsibility, amongst others, is to manage the global administration of the sport and combining world events into one united ranking. The Executive Committee is on a regular basis reappointed by the class AGM. The duties and responsibilities of the Executive Committee are to take care of the day-to-day business of the association, to consider and coordinate submissions from the subcommittees. The Executive Committee elected amongst themselves Chairman Richard Gowers, Vice Chairman Bruno Wanamaker, Executive Secretary Marcus Schwendner, Board Members Mirko Babini, Olivia Moraes, Adam Zamansky and John Gomez. There are also national and regional kite surfing associations in many countries. Styles. Several different kite surfing styles are evolving, some of which cross over. Techniques. Kite surfing basics. Kiteboarding can pose hazards to surfers, beachgoers, bystanders and others on the water. Many problems and dangers that may be encountered while learning kiting can be avoided or minimized by taking professional instruction through lesson centers. Kite surfing schools provide courses and lessons to teach skills including kite launching, flying, landing, usage of the bar, lines and safety devices. Turning. A beginner can turn by stopping or sinking backwards into the water, and then turning the kite in the opposite direction and starting again. A heel turn jibe is a quicker and more skillful turn that is executed by slowing down, flattening the board, then reversing the board flat on the water by bringing the rear foot around downwind to eventually become the new leading foot. The direction of the kite is then reversed, which swings the surfer's path in a semicircle, centered on the kite. As the turn ends, the kite is flown over to be in front of the surfer again. A poorly executed turn will fly the surfer, and is often followed by a tumble if the surfer can't put the board down at the right angle. A careless turn in high winds can easily swing the rider into the air and result in an uncontrolled impact. Controlled flying and jumping. Controlled flying is possible and is one of the biggest attractions of the sport. Before jumping, the surfer builds up tension in the lines by strongly edging the board. Then the kite is flown quickly to an overhead position, sometimes just as the surfer goes over a wave. As the kite begins to lift, the board edge is then released, and the rider becomes airborne. The kite is then piloted from overhead to the direction of travel. A large variety of maneuvers and tricks can be performed while jumping. Jumping can be very risky. Riders must keep a clear buffer zone downwind when attempting to jump. Board grabs are tricks performed while a rider is jumping and has gained air from popping by grabbing the board in a number of positions with either hand. Each grab has a different name dependent on which part of the board is grabbed and with which hand it is grabbed by. Rear hand grabs are known as crail, indie, nuked indie, tail fish, and stale fish, while front hand grabs are known as slob, mute, seatbelt, melon, method, and nose. Names generally originate from other board sports like skateboarding and snowboarding. A number of grabs can also be combined into one trick. A rider may perform a tail grab going to indie by moving the rear hand from the back of the board to the middle of the toe side edge. Assessing the wind strength and kite sizes. Kite surfers change kite size and/or line length depending on wind strength. Stronger winds call for a smaller kite to prevent overpower situations. Kite surfers will determine the wind strength using either an anemometer or, more typically, visual clues as shown in the Beaufort scale. All modern kites dedicated to kite surfing provide a depower option to reduce the power in the kite. By using depower, the kite's angle of attack to the wind is reduced, thereby catching less wind in the kite and reducing the power of pull. Wind speed, rider experience and weight, board size, kite design and riding style are all interdependent and affect the choice of kite. An experienced rider generally carries a quiver of different-sized kites appropriate for the wind speed range. A typical kite quiver might include 8 square meters, 10 square meters and 12 square meters. Traditional sea kites. Exact kite sizes will vary depending on rider weight and desired wind ranges. Bow kites have a wider wind range than sea kites, so 2 kite sizes could form an effective quiver for winds ranging from 10 to 30 plus knots for a 75 kilograms rider. Wind direction. Cross-shore and cross-onshore winds are the best for kiteboarding. Offshore winds pose the danger of being blown away from the shore in the event of equipment failure or loss of control. Offshore winds are suitable in a lake or when a safety boat is available. However, they are generally more gusty. Direct onshore winds carry the risk of being thrown onto land, and are thus less favorable. Locations. Any location with consistent, steady side onshore winds, large open bodies of water and good launch areas is suitable for kite surfing. Most kite surfing takes place along ocean shores, usually off beaches, but it can also be practiced on large lakes and inlets and occasionally on rivers. Since kiteboarding relies heavily on favorable, consistent wind conditions, certain locations tend to become popular and sought out by kiteboarders.